when Gordon asked me this, I made it clear to him I was actually in Illinois pheasant hunting and duck hunting. Had never done that before. And when he asked me, and he get asked these things a lot of times, I thought, wow, the first GOP meeting in Clarke County after the election, I will be there. So I drove 11 straight hours to get here. If this is not my best, it's, but I am 100% psyched to be here. I truly am. So this is a special day. And why is it so special? Not just because of veterans, we're going to talk about them and just coming to the first GOP, because I'm gonna kind of cuss a little bit like Tucker Carlson, because the last 4 years just really sucked, didn't they? Like, you look at that glide slope from like COVID, and we lost the election in 2020, and then the lockdowns, then the lawfare, and then the indictments, and it just kept getting worse until we got to these last 12 months, and we thought, if we don't pull this off, we are really screwed forever, right? And you got that knot in your stomach. And everything lifted last week. We certainly, we did not win the war last week. We did not. We won a very major battle. Our positioning, our footing, our conditions to continue the fight have changed in our favor. And we're going to talk about the need for us to press the fight these next 4 years. I'm psyched he's going to be president for 4 years, but I know people with car payments longer than that, right? It's not that much time. And we're going to talk about that importance for our engagement. So it's in this context, though. What gave most of us the most uplifting, optimistic view for the future is that we're getting back to basics. We're getting back to rational governance. And that's just another way of saying the Constitution. And so I'm going to use that now. I'm going to kind of shape with the Constitution a little bit about where we're going, what responsibilities we have as citizens, but I'm going to weave in all the veterans that were here tonight. Now, most of you should know, our oldest military forces, the Army, the Navy, and the Marine Corps, what year were they formed? So, 1775. If you don't know this, the Marine Corps had a birthday yesterday. If you go find Chappie Hines, he'll tell you. We had a birthday. They were big about it.
Oh, yeah.
But they all did this year. Our oldest services turned 249 this year. So they were founded in 1775. But when did we sign the Declaration of Independence? 1776. Why did we form the military first? To have the courage and the means to actually seize, I mean this word, seize freedom. No one, it is against human nature to be given freedom. I spoke at a revival earlier this summer up in Massachusetts to some kids, and I made it very clear, and this is just a point to share with you. The world does not care about your happiness, and it doesn't care about your freedom, but it does care about your obedience. And if you don't have the means to push back, you will never have happiness or freedom. So we formed the military. So our military is actually older than the independence, Declaration of Independence. It's older than the country, and it's several years older than the Constitution that it defends. So my point here is, as our military goes, so goes our freedom. And much of our country is attributed to where we are today because of those young men and women who fought in the Continental, the first skirmish right there in Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts, shot heard around the world, to those young men and women serving us today for those threats that lay in the immediate future. And there are several. We're going to talk about that shortly. So, in 2 more years, our country will celebrate its 250th anniversary. And that's huge. That's a great milestone. Yeah. Now, I'm looking at the Guthries, but is there anyone that's been married 50 or more years in this room? Right? All right, now that's an accomplishment, right? That is rare. For just two people to stay together for more than 50 years. We have 350 million people in this country, and we've been trying to keep this relationship working for nearly 250 years. You can expect some troubles and some arguments, right? We can get through this. Let's be gracious winners of what happened last week and push to unify. But going back to the marriage example, by the way, did anyone see Trump when he spoke on Joe Rogan? And he talked about his answers, like, you asked me a question, but then I weave, right? I'm weaving. I didn't mean to do that when I got done with it. So I'm like, man, I'm going all over the place here. I will hit a critical point of mass at the end of the speech and let you all leave. What does it take, though, to have a successful marriage? Commitment, absolutely.
Communication.
Communication, dedication. How about vigilance? Be vigilant. Be careful what you invite into that relationship, right? The things you do, the things you say, any threats to it. You got to have love, right? All those things it takes to make a family and a marriage work is the same thing it takes for the country and for the military. Christ taught us there's no greater love hath a man than he that will lay down his life for his friends. He didn't just throw that out there as, that's good advice. He did it 2 days later. We have to be willing to sacrifice, all of us. Now, what makes our military so special? Well, it defends the longest and oldest written charter of governance in the world, and it's still in force, and we can still see the original copy of it, which is rare. France has had 14 constitutions since we wrote our first and last one, to put that in perspective. But our military is strong because of the people, right? You all know, and Sarah will testify to this, good trees bear good fruit, bad trees bear bad fruit. You have to have a force of people, a population you can draw from that you can rely on. And for most of our existence, we have relied exclusively, historically and traditionally, on a volunteer force. Now, certainly there are times, World War II, World War I, where, out of necessity, Vietnam, we had to go to the draft. But we still dug into the bench of our citizens to make that happen. And most volunteer when it comes up to draft time. World War II, we were turning people away. 9/11, we couldn't process them enough. We're like, no, we're full. Today we're struggling. I find that difficult to comprehend. 48,000 service members short of reaching our recruiting goals. But our citizens are unique. So unlike the Romans, they would just go in, conquer you, then conscript you, and then you're going to go fight their next battle. And it just keeps repeating. There's something else that makes us unique. Gun ownership. If you didn't know this, there's over 400 million guns in the hands of citizens in the United States. We are the most well-armed standing militia in the world, and that makes us very formidable. The threat of invasion is very small. The probability of success is even smaller, and we even see this in Afghanistan. I mean, we gave it our best for 20 years. You got some embedded people in that country that's got grit. You're not going to really unroot them very easily. But not all our threats are external. And while I'm doing the victory lap like the rest of you, like by any measure that was a landslide, I'm going to kind of set the bubble and restore some sanity. We were within 4 million votes of overturning the Constitution. The way that I see it. That seems severe, right? But when you see John Bannon getting locked up for war room 4 months before an election, and you see the angst against Elon Musk for allowing free speech, and you see the assault on freedom of expression and prayer. A woman was arrested last week for praying in her head, silently, across the street from an abortion clinic, and she's in prison today for that. I don't know how that's hate speech, but that's what she's on, in her head. That's the craziness we're up against. But it's, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of self-expression. All of these things are cherishable by all of us. But we did endure, and we at least have 48 more months to not just enjoy it, but to solidify it. So what do we do? That's the big thing. So first I'd say follow the examples of our veterans, but follow the examples of those that have been married. We're going to go right back to work, sacrifice, dedication, vigilance, and courage. And also perseverance. I think perseverance. You can have courage and dedication, but don't quit. You know, the Marine Corps really made its reputation for being, just double dogs and all that stuff during the Pacific War, because we had taken Tarawa and Iwo Jima. We had unseated the Japanese inside those, lava and rock-filled caves. But I'm going to be honest with you. If you really read your history, we wanted to quit many times on those beachheads. After 32 days fighting in the sun, sunburn, no water, out of ammunition, your people are all shot up. These guys don't seem to be quitting. It takes a toll. But the ships had left. So the Marines were like, well, we can maybe call them back, but why don't we give it another 4 days? And to our surprise, the Japanese flew a white flag. They just quit first. And I think that's important in life, whether it's in sports, whether it's in business, whether it's in politics. Just persevere. Make them quit. That's a valuable lesson. Right now, I've talked about these things because I'm trying to get to another point. We still have great challenges in this world. We have challenges with China. They want to be number one. We want to stay number one. We're getting our teeth kicked in a little bit. I got a fentanyl issue. I've got an open borders issue. I got a cultural problem. I got an educational problem. We used to be number one in the world when I went to high school, and number 23 right now. Estonia's number 5. They've moved up from number 7. China's number 1. Then I got Taiwan, Singapore, and a few other nations. We're not even in the top 5. Do you know what we're number 1 in the world for right now? Production and consumption of pornography. We're the number 1 destination for human trafficking. Let that set in your head for a minute. We're the number 1 consumer of illegal drugs, not by percentage. We'll take it all. We take more illegal drugs than any other nation. Percentage-wise, we have the greatest number of children being raised by single-parent homes. This didn't happen overnight. We didn't go from Andy Griffin's show in the 60s to The Simpsons that has been on television now, I think, more than 25 continuous years. Something's changed. We are in an information war. Now, the real term for this is called asymmetric war. Our adversaries are not shooting at us, but they're fighting us. They want to win the war of 1,000 cuts. They're not shooting you, but they're attacking us in everything. Our college campuses, our media, our movies, our books, our literature, our rewriting of history, our pulling down statues, hate speech, praying in your head, all this dilute lawfare, the DOJ, CIA, propaganda. You can just go on. Our art got ugly. Our music sucks. We're getting hit on every angle,
Video game.
and it wears on us. The one thing I want to tell you about our veterans, they all come from volunteer citizens. You all have guns too. What separates the average citizen from our warriors that fight for this country? Training. That's it. Just training. Before I joined, I'm out there at the movie theaters with you. I'm in the classroom with you. I'm sitting around the kitchen table with you. It was just training. That's all that separates us. But I talk about asymmetric warfare because I want you to understand there's more battlefields than just the physical battlefield that we deploy forces to. I told people one time, every one of these, whether it's art, education, science, lawfare, all of these are battlefields, and I'm asking you in the next 48 months, please, if you want to save this country, it has been the citizens that fortified it and sustained it all these years. I need you to pick a battlefield. If you love God and you love church, go there more, minister, grow it, start a ministry, read to kids. If you're an educator like Mr. Guthrie and Mrs. Guthrie, pour into the youth while you still can. If your thing is art, Go paint some beautiful art, get out there and criticize the really ugly crap that people are putting out, right? And if you're a businessman, stand up to DEI. If you built a family business on your family values, do not waver because the government asks you to surrender those beliefs. Because I promise you this, they're coming for Trump. We won the election. All right, on their plan, from plan A, B, C, D, like we're at E right now, and that was not supposed to happen. There is a plan F, G, H, and I. I want you to find that battlefield that you know you're a subject matter expert, plant that flag, and you fight for that part of our culture like your life depended on it, because if you do not pick one, a battlefield will pick you that you are wholly unsuited for. This is all hands on deck. This is a contact sport. We all enjoy the benefits together, and we all must sacrifice and be vigilant together. As Jesus Christ also said, he wanted us to be the salt of the world, right? There is over 11,000 uses for salt. The two that I focus on that made it so valuable, especially in the prairie days, it was a disinfectant and a preservative. You got a boo-boo, it'll let you live and clean that thing out. And if you want to store some food, it'll do that for you. So we got to preserve our culture, and we got to disinfect it from the contagions that have been attacking us nonstop the last 48 months. And this is our opportunity to start that. Begins right now, gets solidified on January 20th. So be ready to press the fight. Thank you all so much. Thank you, veterans.